economic intervention that I'm announcing today is unprecedented in the history of the British state. Combined with our previous announcements on public services and business support, our planned economic response will be one of the most comprehensive in the world. Let me speak directly to people's concerns. I know that people are worried about losing their jobs, about not being able to pay the rent or mortgage, about not having enough set by for food and bills. I know that some people in the last few days have already lost their jobs. To all those at home right now, anxious about the days ahead, I say this: you will not face this alone. But getting through this will require a collective national effort, with a role for everyone to play: people, businesses, government. It's on all of us. To meet our commitment to that effort, I am today announcing a combination of measures unprecedented for a government of this nation. Our plan for people's jobs and incomes will protect people's jobs, offer more generous support to those who are without employment, strengthen the safety net for those who work for themselves, and help people stay in their homes.
That's the first time I've done something for somebody
The first part of our plan is to protect people's jobs. This week, the government has taken unprecedented steps to fight the coronavirus. We have closed schools. We have told people to stay at home to prevent the spread of infection. We are now closing shops, restaurants, bars. Those steps are necessary to save lives. But we don't do this lightly. We know these measures will have a significant economic impact. I have a responsibility to make sure that we protect as far as possible people's jobs and incomes. Today, I can announce that for the first time in our history, the government is going to step in and help to pay people's wages. We're setting up a new coronavirus job retention scheme. Any employer in the country, small or large, charitable or non-profit, will be eligible for the scheme. Employers will be able to contact HMRC for a grant to cover most of the wages of people who are not working but are furloughed and kept on payroll rather than being laid off. Government grants will cover 80% of the salary of retained workers up to a total of £2,500 a month. That's just above the median income.
Yeah.
And of course, employers can top up salaries further if they choose to. That means workers in any part of the UK can retain their job even if their employer cannot afford to pay them,
That's
and
brilliant.
be paid at least 80% of their salary. The coronavirus job retention scheme will cover the cost of wages backdated to March the 1st and will be open initially for at least 3 months, and I will extend the scheme for longer if necessary. I am placing no limit on the amount of funding available for the scheme. We will pay grants to support as many jobs as necessary. And can I put on record my thanks to the Trades Union Congress, the CBI and other business groups for our constructive conversations. We said we would stand together with the British people, and we meant it. We have never had a scheme in our country like this before, and we're having to build our systems from scratch. I can assure you that HMRC are working night and day to get the scheme up and running, and we expect the first grants to be paid within weeks, and we're aiming to get it done before the end of April. But I know that many businesses are hurting now. I've already taken extraordinary measures to make cash available to businesses through loans, grants, and guarantees. I can announce today that the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme will not be interest-free as previously planned for 6 months. It will now be interest-free for 12 months. And thanks to the enormous efforts of our critical financial services sector, those loans will now be available starting on Monday.
Good grief.
And I will announce further measures next week on top of those the Governor and I have already taken to ensure
Where's this
that
money coming
larger
from?
and medium-sized businesses
The
can
Treasury.
also access the credit
Treasury.
they need.
Not just a bottomless.
I'm also
bucket of
announcing
cash.
today
It's got about £1 trillion
further
in it.
cash flow support through the tax system. To help businesses pay people and keep them in work, I'm deferring the next quarter of VAT payments.
Woody,
That means
Jesus.
no business will pay
Wow.
any VAT from now until the end of June, and you will have until the end of the financial year to repay those bills. That is a direct injection of over £30 billion
Wow.
of cash to businesses, equivalent to 1.5% of GDP.
Wow.
Let me speak directly to businesses. I know it's incredibly difficult out there. We in government are doing everything we can to support you. We're paying people's wages up to 80%, so someone can be furloughed rather than laid off to protect their jobs. We're deferring over £30 billion of taxes
Neutral.
until the end of the financial year. We're lending unlimited sums of money, interest-free, for 12 months. We're abolishing business rates altogether this year if you're in hospitality, retail and leisure. We're providing cash grants of £25,000 for small business properties. The government is doing its best to stand behind you, and I am asking you to do your best to stand behind our workers. We're launching in the coming days a major national advertising campaign to communicate the available business support for businesses and people. Please look very carefully at that support before making any decisions to lay people off. It's on all of us. We are starting a great national effort to protect jobs. But the truth is we are already seeing job losses, and there may be more to come. I cannot promise you that no one will face hardship in the weeks ahead. So we will also act to protect you if the worst happens. To strengthen the safety net, I'm increasing today the Universal Credit Standard Allowance for the next 12 months by £1,000 a year. For the next 12 months, I'm increasing the Working Tax Credit basic element by the same amount as well. Together, these measures will benefit over 4 million of our most vulnerable households. And I'm strengthening the safety net for self-employed people too, by suspending the minimum income floor for everyone affected by the economic impacts of coronavirus. That means self-employed people can now access in full universal credit at a rate equivalent to statutory sick pay for employees. Taken together, I'm announcing nearly £7 billion of extra support through the welfare system to strengthen the safety net and protect people's incomes. And to support the self-employed through the tax system, I'm also announcing today that the next self-assessment payments will be deferred to January 2021. As well as keeping people in work and supporting those
So not in April,
who lose
like
their
4 days'
jobs or work
time.
for themselves, our plan for jobs and incomes will help keep a roof over your head. We've acted already to make sure homeowners can get a 3-month mortgage holiday if they need it. I'm announcing today
Might as well.
nearly £1 billion
So-
of support for renters by increasing the generosity of housing benefit and universal credit so that the local housing allowance will cover at least 30% of market rents in your area. The actions I've taken today represent an unprecedented economic intervention to support the jobs and incomes of the British people. A new comprehensive job retention scheme and a significantly strengthened safety net. Unprecedented measures for unprecedented times. Let me close with one final observation. Now more than at any time in our history, we will be judged by our capacity for compassion. Our ability to come through this won't just be down to what government or businesses do, but by the individual acts of kindness that we show each other. The small business who does everything they can not to lay off their staff. The student who does a shop for their elderly neighbour. The retired nurse who volunteers to cover some shifts in their local hospital. When this is over, and it will be over, We want to look back on this moment and remember the many small acts of kindness done by us and to us. We want to look back on this time and remember how we thought first of others and acted with decency. We want to look back on this time and remember how, in the face of a generation-defining moment, we undertook a collective national effort and we stood together. It's on all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rishi.
Flipping it. If that wasn't a Churchill speech,
Are you still recording?
then I'm a monkey's uncle.
Pause it a minute. That's
measures that you're taking, how can you be sure that the tax and welfare system can cope to ensure that this support goes to those people who need it and need it quickly? Thank you.
Thanks. Well, Alex, what we're doing today is really enforcing what we set out in the fourth part of our advice on Monday. I think people made a huge effort in the last